It is showtime. Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to Nearment Condition. I am Dom of X. Unfortunately, Omar is currently in the mountains trying to find his hotel spot for Heroes Con, but I am here to hold down the fort, and I am joined today by somebody who I talked a little bit behind the scenes. I said, man, I have not realized how much of your stuff I've watched and listened to. But nonetheless, you're talking to one of the main men behind the DC movie animated universe with movies such as Teen Titans, The Judas Contract, Justice, Justice League Dark, which is one of my favorites there, Batman Hush, Justice League Dark Apocalypse, so many other films. I'm talking to none other than Ernie Altbacker today. How are you doing?
Hey, how you doing? Doing great. Glad to be on. Thank you for taking the time, Dom.
No, well, thank you for joining and taking time with me to talk about your new comic project and also letting me ask you other questions about movie work, because I also do have some questions thrown in there, but I appreciate you taking the time today, Early.
I mean, I really like the live shows. I like audience participation. If people want to ask a question, go check out my IMDb. You can always give me a follow if you're listening to this later and ask me anything. But if there's something in there that you're like, why'd you guys do this? Well, here I am. I might know it, I might not. You know, sometimes the writer is kind of shunted to the side and decisions happen after, but sometimes we make them early. So it depends on the project, but it's really cool making most of them, and who knows, might get a good story out of it.
I feel like every single movie, whatever adaptation, is an opportunity to tell something cool, creative with an added story on it. I mean, that must have like followed you like with your whole life. Like, how'd you get into comics, if I may ask?
Oh, I was a lifelong comic fan, really. When I was super young, I guess the one I really liked. I mean, there's kind of like the kids comics when you're very young. You're Richie Rich, right? Which I like. But then like the first kind of, I'd say, more I don't know, adult comic or something that an adult who's a comic book fan could read and go, oh yeah, this is fun, was Weird War Tales. So I got in through that, which is, and other army ones, Sergeant Rock, Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, and there's some Charlton ones, Battlefront, stuff like that. So those were the first ones. And then I remember reading a Hulk, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. You know, like I should start reading these superhero ones too. And that's how it was. That's how what happened.
And you have been, I mean, you've been following, I mean, you got to write a lot of the big DC heroes up on set. I remember when all of those animated movies came out, and I
Mm-hmm.
was a teenager watching them. You know, the teenager, like adolescent me, not caring whoever wrote in the back credits. Like, I didn't know that you were behind a lot of those movies. So, how did you get into the movie scripting business?
Well, at that point, Alan Burnett, it was kind of the supervising writer of that when they were doing them as solos before. So you're, I don't know, the Red Hood and the Crisis on Two Earths and stuff like that. They would do in the style, a different style of different artists sometimes, and they would do these one-offs. And then I guess I was writing for him. I'd written for Static Shock. He had forgotten that. And then 12 years later, I wrote for him again on Justice League Action, and he knew me from Green Lantern the animated series. So I got to do Justice League Action with the Red Lanterns, and it turned out pretty good. And he was like, you know what, I'm going to give you some more work. And I was like, you know what, I'd really enjoy that. And so one of the first things that kind of came my way was Justice League Dark. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, wow, this is great to get on this. And I got to do a mostly original story. J.M. DeMatteis shares story credit with me. He had done a version, then he had to go off and do, I think, a comic run or something. So they brought another person on. That was me. I built off what he had in the first act, and then I kind of pitched an original take on what would happen. So it's not really anything from a comic book. It's just something that came out of my fevered mind. And, there was a couple of rules and stuff. It's like, we need the Trinity in this. Batman's going to have to be his partner. And a lot of people, when it was announced, boy, it was more like 75%, 80% negative. It's like they got to jam in a Batman and a Justice League Dark. But to me, I didn't know I was going to get to do a bunch of them. I was like, I get to write some Batman. And besides, the pairing makes total sense. He's the world's greatest detective. John Constantine's the world's greatest magical detective. And they're totally different personalities. Constantine's going to get on Batman's nerves. I'm like, this is great. This is gold. I'm going to be able to do something with this. And yeah, I think it turned out pretty well.
I mean, when I first watched it as a kid, like I enjoyed the heck out of it. I was like, you got weird paranormal, magical users, and I loved every single one of the scenes that Zatanna was in. Same with Swampy. I was like, I cannot believe that they made this entire movie out of all of these magic heavy or fantasy based characters. And then on top of that, later down the line, I realized, hey, like they're starting to do comics, during the New 52, and later in 2018 with them. And I was like, man, this should be like a permanent state. Like this should always be a Justice League subset. So I had a fun time with them anyways.
Yeah. You mentioned the Zatanna fights. I mean, obviously the director or the supervising animator of that was Jay Oliva. And I believe that was his last one at Warner Brothers. So I'm so happy I got to work with him because my two favorites of these movies are The Dark Knight. They split that into two, and he was the director of those also. But he was like, oh, I'm going to do these fights. Like, it's going to have bits of like Full Metal Alchemist. And I made the mistake of going, what's Full Metal Alchemist? It's like, no, you have to go watch everything right now. And I was like, oh crap, this is a lot of stuff. But then I got like really into it. I'm like, oh man, what about this? Like, can we throw that in? And he's like, oh, I'm way ahead of you. You're never going to teach the guy who storyboards these giant live action movies about how to do a fight scene. But he did use a couple of my bits that I wrote in. So
I love the sprinkles in there. That's so cool.
That water cube, that's me. That was in the script.
But it has to feel like super enthralling to see like your script come to life with all of the animations and the drawings and all, like every single bit that people are putting in, where you're just like, man, like I wrote that in, and you get to see that on film. Like, how cool is that?
It is. And there's other people involved. I mean, James Tucker overseed all of these films, right? So he's got a say, and Alan and some of the other Warner Brothers people. So it is very much a team effort. But usually when stuff gets changed, it's kind of for a reason, and most of the time it makes it better. So every one of these movies, if you would see it halfway through, you would go, oh no, why did we even start? This might be a disaster. And then by the time it's done, it's so good. It's so good. So just seeing the animation, the animatics the first time, you're like, I don't understand what I've written. I'm going to confuse the crap out of people. And so they've got such a good team at Warner Brothers Animation that they all come out They all come out pretty well. I mean, I know people have nitpicks. They have nitpicks with every single one, but compared to what I was getting when I was a kid, you should be so lucky.
But I think that's one of the coolest things, honestly, I've seen from the people over at Warner Brothers is their attention to detail when it comes to a lot of animation. I mean, compared to a lot of other studios. Because like me growing up as a as a kid, like most of not if not all the stuff that I watched was animated. I wasn't huge into live action, but I always thought like, hey, like there's a Teen Titans or a Young Justice or a Batman show that's running on Boomerang or Cartoon Network or whatever it might be. Like I was always so lucky to have those and to see them continuing to flesh that out. Even in like a shared universe with Flashpoint up till Apocalypse, Justice League Dark Apocalypse, which you worked on. Like I always thought that it was so cool that they continued to focus on that. As opposed to saying like, hey, maybe we can only have like 1 or 2 features every couple of years, but just leave it at that.
Yeah, it's the shared universe was really cool. I mean, they're on their second one right now, I guess. I love them, and I hope to get to do more of them.
It would be so cool. And yeah, Doug saying that, yeah, I love those animated films so much more than the live action, mostly due to the stories. And with Kane saying DC animated movies were amazing. I love watching them.
Excellent.
But you're also, not only did you work on those movies, but you're transitioning sort of from that over to do this Kickstarter, which we will hopefully be able to get to talk about, or we'll be able to talk about for the next couple of minutes. So how did you make the transition from, I'm going to be writing a script on an adaptation of the most famous Teen Titans storyline, to what are the secrets behind Area 51?
Well, it's not kind of a transition. It's kind of a side project. Like I've always wanted to write comics, and I got a little bit a little chance to do some DC stuff, but it seemed like every time I got in with an editor that they would be moved to other stuff, and my scripts went into inventory. So they're still there, and I really love them, but they don't have art to them. So I don't know if they're ever going to get out. I mean, there's this 1-2-part Suicide Squad that the main character is Captain Boomerang. Man, I would love to see art for that one. But so I was waiting around, and I'm like, I'm going to just do it myself. I've got to find an artist. And I was at Comic-Con, and I saw this panel. I hadn't even looked through the guide, but then I saw it on my phone, or maybe it was one of the last years that they had the paper guide, and it was the comic creator panel. And it's described as speed dating for people that want to write comics and people that want to draw comics. So these are non-professionals, right? So I went in there, and I saw this guy's stuff, that Josh White, and he had one image, and I was like, ooh, I bet you he could do it. And so we kind of hooked up and went for it. So basically, I'll tell you a little bit about the thing. So everything you've heard about Area 51 is a lie. Actually, Area 51 is a studio lot where your cheaper alien producers come to make galactic reality TV shows.
Oh.
Yes. So basically, if you like behind the scenes Hollywood stories like Seth Rogen's The Studio right now, or dating myself a little bit, The Larry Sanders Show, mixed with Men in Black, with maybe some Monty Python weirdness thrown in, then this indie comic might be your thing, So, yeah, and that's kind of what it's about. There's also, it was from an idea that I actually wrote a novella for, so we're actually doing both. There is a comic that you can get printed, or there's a novella, and we also have the e-versions of that. But the novella, what I found with the comic and my collaborator, Josh, is that the story is wiggling around going in different directions. So the cool thing is that the novella, yes, they hit the main beats and it'll be the same ending, but the way they get there is not the same. So if you like that kind of thing and that kind of humor, I've got some sample pages over there. If you scroll down, you can kind of see. We wanted this kind of simple style so that the aliens be like kind of fun, and yeah, I mean, if you're into a sci-fi comedy, it's kind of in a Douglas Adams tone. So life, the universe, and everything, a restaurant at the end of the universe. If you like that kind of stuff, you might like this.
Okay. I mean, it looks a lot to me like the Plants vs. Zombie games that I used to play when I was a kid and also watched like my younger brother play. This is what it reminds me a lot of.
Yeah, no, we wanted to have this like simple style, make it be like a very colorful thing. And obviously, the plan is to hook up with some sort of indie animation company that could turn it into a web series. And if we make enough bits and connect them together, then it'll be a feature. But that is after first thing. The story arc we have right now is a 4-issue arc. At the end of that, it'll be a graphic novel or a trade paperback of about 110 pages with about 20 to 30 pages of cool extras, especially for you process junkies. Like the extras in this, there's going to be 8 pages. Like 3 or 4 of them are going to be a couple pages from the novella and then inks in issue 2. So there's going to be a section, you're actually getting a preview of issue 2 in issue 1, and you'll see the inks of it. So it's by no means done, but you get a little bit of a preview of what's happening in issue 2, and you can see the process of what's in the novella and what ends up on the page, which I think is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. And how do you decide to divvy it up? I know that you said we have the trade paperback incoming, which means that you definitely have like an end towards whatever the story might be, whatever the arc might be, etc. So my question is, how do you decide to set pace and say like this is how we're going to progress a story through each issue or each chapter? How much how much meat are you going to put into the plot? How does that all work out?
Well, that's a discussion, but mostly Josh lets me set the parameters / cliffhangers that we end on, because I know the book by heart. I did like 20 drafts of it, so I go, okay, this will be an excellent ending right here to start it, and then the next one we're gonna end on this cliffhanger, this bit of action. Third one's going to set up, oh crap, the end of the world might be coming because of this reality show for my guy. Centers around one alien producer called Zephril Boone, and his career has taken a bit of a downturn. So this is his last shot at trying to do something. And so while he's grandiosely titled his show The Human Race, it is 5 people in a trailer in the middle of the desert. So he's got to do a couple underhanded things to get the audience's eyeballs on it,
So you got a couple of eyeballs in on a lot of different characters and different people that are going to be. I mean, you got little alien producers running around in different bits and spots. It certainly seems chaotic in the studios, to put it lightly. Like I can't see you got like these guys are dead or they're sad or it's like, oh my goodness, like what's going on behind the scenes there?
Well, that's how he picks his cast. So when he's ready to go roll with the show, you just have an air date. They don't care what the GBEC, the Galactic Broadcasting network, corporation, sorry, is they give you your broadcast slot, and then it gets beamed out to all the worlds in that, market. And so the way he gets his actors for on the cheap is that he waits for them to die. And then with his alien technology, he brings them back to life. And then he tells them, hey, you can be galactic stars, or you can go back to being dead. And so it's kind of an easy choice, I guess. But just like all people, they get annoyed at what's happening, and they're jammed together with these people that are, chosen for maximum viewing interest, according to Zeph and his girl Friday, Kaz. So there's that.
All right, that's like if we took Ra's al Ghul and just had him kill Batman a whole bunch of times. He kept asking him, like, hey, do you want to be alive? You need to do this, one random off thing. Except this time you have an alien telling somebody, do you want your life back as an actor? Or do you just want to lay it all to waste? I like that bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's a funny tone. The reason why I said before Monty Python is there is this kind of bloody but not scary bloodiness where, the guy wants to get a mattress delivered, and there's these. I mean, this isn't in issue 1, so I'm just. But so these creatures called the Flads are these little beings inside of a mattress, and they move at night, and they give you the most restful sleep in the galaxy, and then they die off. And Zeph's like, I haven't been sleeping well lately. Let's get rid of it. I want a new mattress. And it's like, there's half of their colony is still alive. It's like, well, some of them are dead because I had a cricky neck last night. And so you're actually like destroying a civilization or throwing it into the incinerator. So just because he had a cricky neck one night, it's kind of like ridiculousness of it.
Yeah, so Kane is asking, so road rules in the real world would revive actors shown for galactic viewership. That sounds hilarious.
I can tell you also, I mean, look, I know to some of you, you're going to be like, that doesn't matter to me at all. But we are doing exclusive stickers if you buy a printed thing. If you buy either the printed novella or the printed book, and then right on the wall, Nearmint. It's Nearmint Comics podcast or
Nearment Condition.
Nearment Condition. Sorry, you write hashtag Nearment Condition on the door. So or on the comment spot of it. So I know you want them, because there are other people that are just kind of being our backers, and they're not listening. So because you're listening, you have this chance to get exclusive stickers. If you're a stickerhead, Josh has done a really good job on the stickers. I can't show them to you. They don't exist yet, but I've seen the designs, and it's going to be really cool. So there's free stuff if you do it. And that also goes for whenever you're listening to this. If you listen to it after, as long as you write hashtag Nearment Condition, I will know that you want the stickers. But it has to be something printed, and it also has to be obviously while the Kickstarter is going on. If you listen to it 6 months from now and we're like on book 2, you might not get those stickers. You'll get different ones.
So this Kickstarter is going to end, guys, on the 30th of June. Is that right, Ernie?
Yes, the 30th. It is Monday the 30th. So time is getting a little bit down there, but I think there's, obviously, there is still time. To me, it just drained down Like we started, and I think it was 28, 29 days. I mean, Sunday was on the 1st. That was my first mistake. This is my first Kickstarter. I'm making mistakes all over the place, just bungles. I didn't know until a week in that you could send a message to a backer. I was like, boy, I'd really like to say thank you to some of these people, other than the overall update message, right? Which, of course, but I'm like, that person did the first day. My first update message was like, 5 days later, I really wish I could. I'm like, oh, it's right there. Like Josh and I are just kind of feeling our way through this thing. So please give us some slack on that. But it's been really fun. I got to say, the Kickstarter community is really fun. Even if you don't hit me up, I mean, get people, just back books for $1. I mean, if you ask me, would I rather have, right now our backers are low. I'm like, I feel bad because we don't have this number of backers. So if there was like, yeah, someone wants to give you $50, or would you rather have $51 backers? I would definitely rather have $51 backers because it would make the numbers look a little bit better. So the people that like it really like it, and they go in. Yeah, I love dollar backers. So please, don't think like, oh, this guy's going to think that he doesn't need it or doesn't want it. Look, no way. Everything kind of juices the algorithm. It's what I've been told anyway. And everything is appreciated. But if it's not me, get in there. There's so many interesting projects. I'm going to mention one, Steve Prince, Monstradors. It is like bullfighters, except they're fighting monsters. It's such a fun concept. So you can check that one out too.
How has the process sort of been putting your project up on Kickstarter? We have this campaign up. We want to get it to as many people out as possible. So how has the pushing been to get this up?
Well, I got to say that, I'm learning something new every day. I wouldn't have done it if Josh was the one who said, hey, I can handle that because I am a technological dunce. I can work Final Draft and Word, and that has given me a career. But if it's something hard, like to build a website or something, and I thought that was going to be it, he's like, no, it's a little bit more simple. And sure enough, he set the thing up. He's putting in the pictures. I did all the writing. I'm like, make a spot in there for me to write. Just put gobbledygook, and I will put in stuff in all the spaces. And so now I'm clicking around with it and learning stuff. And it's not as hard as I thought it was. So, I mean, seriously, if I can do it, you can definitely do it. But it's great to have a partner to do it with. For me, anyway. If you're the person, look, you're a young guy. Obviously, you have you're doing a podcast and streaming something right now. I don't think I could do that. So you've been raised with it a lot more than me. I used it as a word processor in college. That first Standup Mac was basically a glorified word processor. The cool thing is you didn't need whiteout. I didn't need to do typing and then put a whiteout ribbon when I made a mistake, because you got points off if you had too many mistakes or you had to retype stuff. It was time intensive. So basically, the Mac computer, when I got to borrow one, I didn't have one. We had one in our little dorm of 130 people. There were, I believe, 3, but our class had one. Our freshman class had one, and we mostly played games on it. But every now and again, used it as a word processor. That, now you guys get all these great computer courses, and you're like, oh, I know Canva and this and that. Man, I can't make some just programs work. I'm like, oh no, I can't open that. Maybe I won't be able to close it. I'll have to get rid of my computer then. I'll throw it apart. I'd rather buy a new computer than update some of the programs.
I think it's funny you mentioned that because I remember back in high school, like I had I bought a super fancy graphing calculator because it's what I needed for, AP calculus and, all of these different courses. But my teacher would always constantly ask me, like, do you have any games on your calculator? I always thought like the first thing that people did when they got like whatever their new technology device or whatever you want to call it is, download as many cool games or cool apps on it as possible so you can use it to like pass by through time. So when I heard you saying like, hey, we played some games on the old processor, that's what my mind went to.
Yeah, exactly. But our games were not the same. I bet you had kind of Call of Duty or something good, right? We did. I had Oregon Trail. It's like, oh, you got dysentery. Yes, I
People remember
remember VCRs. I remember Betamax.
that is crazy and insane. Yes, I took A, B, and BC Captain Underpants. But yeah, if I may ask, Ernie, tell me a little bit too, not only with the extra stuff that you're offering, but also the various tiers and rewards for people who are backing up the Kickstarter.
Well, I think we've made it pretty affordable to get involved. You know what? Now you just got me on the, what do you call it?
The spot.
Yeah, you put me on the spot. Of course, I don't have it up. I'm like, you're going on to a show where you're going to talk about your Kickstarter, but don't have it up in another window. So I think by far the kind of like the bargain, I think, is the digital. There's the kind of the digital comic is $5, and the digital novella is also $5. I think you can get like the 2 for the 10. There's kind of a digital all in also that you can get, where you get a lot of like extra stuff. And then we've got a couple of really cool alternative covers, variant covers, both by, again, the same artist, Josh White. I have to mention that Josh, he did everything, which I think also was a reason that I could do this, was that he was going to do the coloring, the lettering, the pencils, and the inks, and the flattening. I mean, like everything. So we did a Men in Black. We did a Men in Black variant cover, and then also a scene from 2001: A Space Odyssey. If you remember, he's carrying like his ventilator, and in this one, like, there's ZB, the producer, on his cell phone instead, which I kind of like. And then I mean, you can get also the printed one. The printed book is $12, $12 or $13. Sorry, printed is $13, and there's some shipping. The variants are $17, and I think you can get various packages. There's like, you can get the print and novella, or the comic and the novella for $27, and it includes the digital versions of both, which I thought was like pretty cool. So you'll have the hard copies, and you will also have the digital versions. And we don't have a lot. I mean, the all in, which is just absolutely everything plus an extra we're gonna figure out, is $55. There's a draw you in, but we only have one left. So I couldn't believe that we sold 2 of them already. It was one, and then I'm like, well, we gotta like do another one just in case. Then that one sold, so now we bumped it up to 3. But I think this is the last one because we don't want to. The comic is done, not the extras yet. We got to put those all together. But now we've got to screw with some panels, or Josh does, not me, for the draw you in. If you go back up top, you'll see that panel. It's like right under those variant covers. There it is. This could be you, right? Now go all the way up to the first page of the comic.
Get there.
Right there. You see that first big panel?
Right here.
There's the girl getting the coffee dumped on her head. Now we're going to bring that up more, and it could be male or female or whatever you'd like. So that's where one of the draw you ins are going to be. The other one we have to figure out, actually. And if there's a third, we'll have to figure that one out too. But there are spots if you like that. And with the draw you in, you get absolutely everything. All the printed versions of all the covers and all the digital, all the extra digital stuff, all of Josh's design work and inks. I think pencils and inks, but that we had to work up to get to the comic. And that'll probably include some different dialogue changes that we made. So like the first one, I've tweaked the dialogue to get it out of the way just so his art could come first, because I wanted all this stuff. Like if you go down a little bit or up a little bit to the bottom of the page, bottom of that first page. Nope, sorry, one more and another. Yeah, right there. So I like stuff going on in the background. Right. So you can see if you lower it now a little that those guys are struggling with that. The other way. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
See, so we see them in the background, like doing something, and they're aliens. And I like, and so does Josh, thankfully, like filling the frame with weird stuff that's happening in the background of different types of races of aliens. And the other thing is it's just chock full of references to the stuff that I really liked, the stuff that inspired me in sci-fi and fantasy and just all genre type of things.
I really like the thought and process and the design thought of putting in as much detail into the background as possible. Because honestly, like some of the coolest like panels I've seen in comics are where you get to see. It might not be the most prominent part of the issue, but you see this widescreen panel where it just has a whole bunch of things behind it. You're just like, how long do you think the artist took to draw all of the details in?
Yeah, we have a splash panel, and it just didn't come out well because you'd have to shrink it. But it's a splash panel of the floor, but right before these pages, of the floor of Area 51 Studios. And so you see several different productions going on. And, I think you see half of it if you move down, or I guess up. If you go up, nope, the other way. Sorry. Keep going. Keep going. Right here. That's part of it, right? He's coming down the elevator. And so there's like this gladiatorial show on. But you see the entire thing, and you can tell like something's happening in the top right corner. But that's just a bit of it. That's like an eighth of the page. So there's all these different aliens. You can see the craft service table set up behind the screen of the gladiator contest over there. People eating. So just like a little movie studio.
That is so cute. I love the. I love the theater behind here as well.
Yeah, we wanted to do it in this kind of Archer-ish style because I write cartoons and kid shows for animated, for the studios and the streamers. I'm hoping that when I get to the point that it is a graphic novel, that one of those people will want to pick it up for either a 6 or an 8 episode series or perhaps a low budget animated feature. So it's got to be very easily animatable. Like Josh can do incredible detailed stuff, but we made the conscious decision of like, we're going to do this in an easily animatable 2D style with kind of nice colors, and the story is going to have to carry it along with the animation. In some cases, I mean, you got Jim Lee doing your book.
Right.
You're carried along by the art a lot. So that's why we made that decision. But listen, if the audience doesn't want to talk about this, I totally understand, and I will answer questions. But I hope that they take a look at it, and I'd love it if you followed or even gave me a signal boost. If you just don't have anything to back it with, that's totally fine.
No.
Follow the project until the end, because it could be good. I mean, what I hope is that there's only, whatever, like 100 or 200 of this first thing, and they will be the only ones that say this issue. If it does become a TV show, this thing's going to be a collector's edition. We're not going to just keep whipping out this is it for the originals. If people buy when we're doing issue 2 and people are jumping into the catch-ups or something, that will be listed on the inside as something different. These are going to be the originals. So however many or few people get them, but it won't be that big. If it does turn into something bigger, I think it'll be like, you'll get your money back and more. So who knows?
All right. Soak it in for the weird aliens and maybe the promise of something more. And I guess one of the last questions I have, at least specifically on this project, is how's it like working? I know you've mentioned it a whole lot because Josh is doing the interiors, you got the colors, the finishes, even the letters, which I'm just astounded by when you take up so many of those jobs. How's it been working with him on this project?
It's been fantastic. We are very simpatico on what we find funny. Our creative meetings are usually us making jokes and laughing. We get stuff done. We get the stuff done fast, and then we're just pitching on little pieces, like how this can be better, how that can be better. He's actually, he is finishing up doing some fine tuning on this. You see, that actually that's a black and white drawing. He also was able to, I can't believe he actually did this. He showed me something. I met him at WonderCon this year, and he was like, yeah, I've got this other project, and I wanted to give like I'm forgetting what it's called, an ash can. So he did a 10-page ash can over the weekend. Right. He animated, or not animated it, but he did the art and he wrote it, right? He's a good writer in his own right. And I was like, you can do that? And it's like, well, yeah, it's black and white. It's a lot easier. And I go, could you do like 10 illustrations for the novella? So you could be in that too? And he's like, yeah. And then I got him to do 20. So really, in a 140-page book, you get 20 of these full-page pictures. And I don't know if is there a caption on the bottom of this one? Like all of them have little captions that tell you a little. Yeah, Trollwags love their gladiatorial combat shows. So you get 20 pages. It shows the cast, puts the name to the faces, right? So you've got some animated. Or you've got these, and these are exclusive to the novella. They aren't in the comic. I mean, there's something else in the comic, but these are, for the most part, originals. There's a couple that we've repurposed, I guess, but most of them are original things that you're not gonna find in the comic. And that's another thing, I guess, that makes it interesting to me is, I know some people wait. They wait until there's like, oh, the run is done. They're going to do 3 or 4 or 5 issues. They wait because they don't want to get into a story and then not have it pay off.
Mhm.
Well, you can always get the digital novella.
Mm.
That's how it's going to pay off. So you don't have to wait to know the entire story. But the cool thing is the comic is different. So you get
Mhm.
to see the pictorial version of what we had to pick. There's just too much stuff. It's too big of a world to actually do it all in a 100-page comic. But I'm going to try and jam in everything that I can that is cool, so the people from the comic get the experience in totality of the novella, but also um, you get to see it in this sequential art form. So I think that's cool. I like different versions of the stuff that I like.
Mhm.
Like if you give me the Lord of the Rings,
Mhm.
I will read the book, I will watch the cartoon, and then I want the feature film. And now if there's a show, I'm going to watch that too. Like the things I like, I want to consume in multiple forms, and like really know the world. So I'm like the best. I'm a fan too. I'm the studio's best friend, because if they pump out something else, it's like from Aliens. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, I got to get that. I got to get that. And I got to go watch that.
You get the best of every single world, no matter which world that you're delving into.
Yes, I think that's what we're trying to do anyway.
Yeah, this looks like an awesome project. The fact that like you're sort of making bylines so that you can figure out how to put somebody in a even when it's finished, or even the fact that like it is finished, but you're trying to move around the needle so that you can accommodate somebody's wishes, which 3 people or 2 people have. Obviously the one left, but I think that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, and I've actually I've written uh number 3 already, and Josh is working on the inks of number 2. So we're like really ahead. Number 2 should be the Kickstarter for number 2 is going to be in late September, early October. So you'll probably have it in your hands before the end of the year. By hopefully by late November or mid December. Definitely,
Okay.
I really want it to be before Christmas. This one you should have in your hand. Well, there is a little thing of like we don't know exactly when there's a delay before they give you the money to pay for the stuff, right? From the Kickstarter, it's like 2 or 3 weeks. So then we've got to pay all the printing costs. We've got to pay the book costs, the binding costs and stuff. Then we got to get that stuff shipped to us. Then we have to do the fulfillment. So there'll be a little delay, but I'm hoping August sometime.
Okay.
Well, end of August, maybe by mid September, I want to be absolutely done with that, because I'll be kickstarting issue number 2, which will certainly also be done, or who knows? Well, as I said, I'm learning. I'm learning every day.
Mhm.
If we've didn't do the timing right, then we did not do the timing right.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with dipping your toes in the sand into something new. It's like going to a brand new beach. You don't know what the environment is, but you know that it's a cool looking beach, and you'll eventually get acclimated to it.
Absolutely.
But anyways, like Ernie said earlier, they are giving the chance to offer really, really cool stickers. And as somebody who loves stickers, I have a couple. Unashamedly, I have a couple Pokemon books that have are all sticker books. So even me, like I always find ways to put them on. So tell them #Nearment Condition, and if you back the project, you will get Some really, really cool designs.
A printed version.
Printed version.
If you back a printed something printed, then you will get some exclusive stickers,
which I think is pretty cool. Could I toggle you with a couple of DC animated questions while I have?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sorry. You know, like I get a little embarrassed sometimes, like banging the drum of like, hey, yeah, because it's like, hey, give me $1. I feel bad, but I think the project is going to be really cool, and the people that get in early are going to be able to lord over everyone else. Yeah, shoot. What would you like to know about?
I'm gonna put a spoilers tag. Please, guys, go watch Batman Hush, Teen Titans: The Judas Contract, Apocalypse War, and all those other things down in the thing. We're gonna talk about that for the next couple of minutes. We do have that here, but of course, if you guys are also interested, you can ask Ernie some questions live as well. One of my questions is, when did you guys decide to, for Batman Hush anyways, because obviously it is a soft adaptation, if you will, of the Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb Batman epic or in the early 2000s. When did you guys decide to say, let's make Riddler the villain of the story?
I knew you were going to ask that. Everybody likes that. So for I know, okay, it runs about 2-1 that people are okay with this change, that they think that they think it makes it, to not have a split villain is always stronger in the classical storytelling, right? But all right, so we're in the room, and the DC rep is the great Mike Carlin. He was the editor on the Death of Superman book, amongst
a whole lot of other different things.
Years. Yeah, like a lot. And he was telling us about that people from the first issue of Hush, they were like, it's Thomas Elliot. It's Thomas Elliot. Because there's a new guy and everything goes wacky, deadly wacky. And wacky's not the right word to use with Batman, is it? Right? But
I mean, I've watched some Adam West. The guy.
Yeah. Well, but this isn't that, right? Or Hush isn't that.
No.
So he, there was like so many people knew, so they started putting in, throwing in more twists that they had actually planned on, just to get people off the scent. But then it was going to be that. I was on that 2 villain thing. I was kind of like, oh, what if we could just make it 1 villain? And they're like, well, sure, how? And I'm like, what? Well, he goes to the Lazarus pit anyway. I'm forgetting what's in there, and what I threw in there. So if I get part of this wrong, I'm not sure, or I apologize. But I was just like, why? Because everybody knows this is one of the most famous comic book runs. Everybody knows that Thomas Elliot is. Oh shit, Dom, are you still there?
I'm still. Oh my goodness, I'm still here.
El Gato, the cat. You went away.
I'm still here, Ernie, but keep going.
Okay, so everybody knows that Hush is Tommy Elliot, and in the room there was this kind of thing of like, if we could do another villain just to surprise people, and I was like, well, we can't do a totally new villain. We can't take this story to where it was like, geez, no, it's actually the Joker, right? Right, because people will revolt. But using the pieces that were already there with the Riddler and the Lazarus pits, that he was sick, I believe. I just made him more sick. I think I made it the brain cancer, and that it gave him, in addition to great power, the mind, the clarity of his mind, that he could figure out who Batman was. And since he's so strong, but he knows that look, he's considered a lot of times like a joke, the Riddler, right? So he needed to use all those people and not have them know it was him. And he was super strong and super smart. And he got over on all these villains. So they're like, this guy, Hush, he is he isn't fooling around. We have to listen to him. We've got all these people under, he's gotten everybody under his control. He's given me the way to get Superman and this and that, Poison Ivy, and he's pulling it all. So in no way would you ever think of that it's a Riddler. It's like, yeah, here's a riddle. Yeah, catch me now. You know who's doing the crime. So he couldn't keep it a secret anyway. And I think if there is anything that in Batman Hush, the one thing is, if Batman doesn't consider, oh, this new guy came back into my life and now suddenly things are totally different. If he's the world's greatest detective, wouldn't he consider that first? Like that should be your first thought. I haven't seen this guy in 30 years, and now all of a sudden all these villains are doing stuff that they've never done before. So it kind of makes him not a great detective, which that's the one little flaw. I love Hush. The art is gorgeous and everything. But if there was anything, I would go, why wouldn't Batman think that it wasn't this guy? So there you go. So what I would say to the people who do not like that is a different ending. I did not throw it an absolute curveball and said, look, it's Ra's al Ghul in disguise. I used the pieces that were already there and just put them together in a different order to get a different villain. And by killing Tommy Elliott, actually killing him, then you didn't know where the story was going. So I don't know. That was the reasoning anyway. I know that's not going to be good for some people. Sorry, I've heard that was one of the first times where I heard you ruined my childhood, and now I'm like, man, really? I wiped everything out? Like the good days with your parents in the park and like Christmas morning when you got a good gift. I just killed it all because I combined the villains in Batman Hush. I'm sorry. I apologize for doing that. Kill it, ruin it, being a childhood ruiner.
I think one of the most interesting parts about the original Hush run, anyways, or concepts of it, having and setting up a complete storyline revolving around the mystery of, you're so familiar with these people, but the one person it might not be is probably the one who's gonna, get at you the most. And your twist just happens to be like, well, we can't do the same thing again because people are gonna know who it is, just like people in the 2000s maybe didn't know who Tommy Elliott was. But you here said, let me do something and throw some people off their bones because, it's a mystery after all. Try to do something different and not have it be a complete one-on-one where it doesn't need to be a complete one-on-one.
I think one of the directors, I want to say Jay Oliva, said in one of these interviews that it's like, you want to do a story, you want to put your own seasonings on it. Sometimes I like the seasoning's got to be good. Mm-hmm. Right? Because if you adapt something and you really go against its nature and do something, then you can piss off the fandom that made it worth doing in the first place. So I think we didn't go against Hush's nature. So there you go.
All right. I love that answer. Now I have part of my completely piqued interest satisfied. So I appreciate it.
All right.
2 more questions, I think. The 2 biggest ones for me anyways.
Okay.
How did you guys get Kevin Smith on the Judas contract? That was something when I watched, I was like, there's no way they got, Gar Logan. to go on this guy's podcast in that universe, so to speak, with the actual Kevin Smith doing a voiceover.
Well, that's part of the things that some people have a problem with, like doing, say, Teen Titans, the Judas Contract. Nightwing already existed in this universe, in the Tuckerverse. So one big part of it is it's the origin of Nightwing.
Mm-hmm.
So we couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So things did have to change. You know what? I'm gonna take a little. I never get credit for this. So in the original book, he is doing a radio show with somebody, and it's like, well, let's update it to a podcast at least. And I said, hey, this is before Kevin Smith directed his first episode of The Flash, right? Where basically he said a bunch, like, I would love to do one of these, and then Warner brought him in, or the whatever channel it was on, the CW, sorry. But I was listening to his Smodcast and his other Hollywood Babylon with Ralph Garman and stuff at that point, and I knew he was such a huge fan. And I go, what if it was this Kevin Smith Smodcast? And everybody was like, no, we'll never get him. We're not even going to try. Make it Snapper Carr. And I go, fucking Snapper Carr is now interviewing him on the Snapper Pod or something, and I'm like, whatever. So I did it. I go away after my 3 drafts, and I see Kevin Smith is in it. And they're like, during the thing, it was like, great news. And then they like called up Kevin Smith out of the blue, and he said yes. The marketing folks had a great idea, and I was like, that was my idea. That was my freaking idea, and you derided me. You derided me for saying Kevin Smith and the Smodcast. I'm like, oh well. So I get no credit for it, but I put that bug in their ear.
You should get credit for that. I completely agree with you.
I didn't get to write his lines. Like I wasn't on the project at that point. I wrote the Snapper Carr radio or the Snapper Carr podcast lines. Alan Burnett got to do it.
Oh man,
jealous.
Have you talked to Alan about that?
Oh, I mean, he knows it. I was there, he might have been the person who brought it up. It's like, oh yeah, marketing did a great. I'm like, don't you remember that I pitched it? It's like, oh yeah, you did.
That is crazy. All right then. I did not know that fact. But I guess that goes to show the weird behind the scenes production and the stuff that we usually don't see behind the scenes often. So
exactly. So there you go.
There you go.
But he was more than willing to do it, and that was, maybe. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm the one that got him his shot on the Flash, but who knows how that little cascade went from that time, like that he was in, and he goes, I would really like to direct something. I think either he had directed his first episode, or I don't think he had at that point. We're making him a long time before they ever come out, like 2 years before. So I'm working on it. For 6 months. I go away. Then the animation team, they sit with it for another 18 months until it's done. Then it's done usually between 3 to 6 months before the release date, because publicity and marketing have to do their thing. So it's not like, oh, it's done, we're going to release it next week without, we don't want to dump it without some publicity. And the great at Super PR guy, Gary Marianu, used to be the guy who did it for all the films that I was on. I don't know who's doing it right now, but he was always great. You know, how you would see it, right? I'm a fan, so I watch them all. The ones I didn't do, it's like first you get an image, right? Then you get like one interview, then you get some more images, then you get a cast list, then you get a 30-seconder, then more and more stuff until you get the full trailer about whatever 3 to 4 weeks before you're down again, Tom.
Yep, I know.
So and then hopefully it would end up with a premiere on Friday night at WonderCon or San Diego Comic Con or New York Comic Con, which is the way stuff was done then when I was doing it. And it was really cool to be there, you know, live with fans, to see sometimes a couple thousand. I mean, they were in that San Diego Ballroom 20 for Batman Hush, and it was standing room. People were standing at the back of the thing. That thing sits 4,250 people. Like, even big deal independent directors, where do they get a premiere where there's 4,000 people? They might get like 500 or 1,000, but a 4,000 seat place is like big. And some of the other ones, I mean, I wasn't on it. Maybe they had one in Hall H. That's 10,000 people.
A lot of people.
So there's like live action movies that don't get a premiere as big as these sometimes do. You know, which is I think it's so cool. It's one of the great joys that I got to work for Warner Brothers, to do some of these movies, and you know, I hope to do some more.
I hope so too, because I have enjoyed most of, if not all of your films. And this is from, you know, 10-year-old Dom and moving up in the world speaking. And I also want to thank you, Ernie, for taking the time out of your life to talk with us about your awesome Area 51 Kickstarter.
Thank you very much. Yes, please, if you're hearing this, give it a look. Hashtag Nearment Condition, and yeah, I would love you to just watch it, give it a look. But if not me, go and support indie comics or books or whatever. Kickstarter, just there's like a lot of stuff. I saw a pillow on there that I think I'm going to order. Wow,
how big, huh?
Okay, yeah, I'm like space age pillow. I'm a huge pillow guy. It's got the cricky neck, you know. So I'm always looking for the better mousetrap in pillow form. So
yeah, I might have to talk with you afterwards so I could also see that pillow. But thank you folks all for joining us. That's that. I'm Dom, and hope to see you guys soon, and stay safe, Minties.
Thanks a lot.